Hi folks, welcome to a quick painting table update. So yeah, it's been quite a while since I painted any of my 28mm Napoleonic stuff, but yeah, so I've been experimenting with the Army Painters speed paints. I did a fantasy figure when I first got the little box of them to experiment with, and yeah, it looked okay, but I wasn't really convinced. But I have seen a couple of YouTubers painting some of their Napoleonic figures with using the speed paints and various techniques of undercoating and various other things like that. And so I thought, yeah, I'd give it a go, as I got a ridiculous amount of figures to paint. So yes, I gave it a go. So I'll show you some experimenting that I did. This was the first figure that I painted. This was with a black undercoat and then a grey dry brush over the top of the whole figure, using various speed paint colours. There was the blue, the red, obviously no white because I can't actually work out how you speed paint with white, but so I had to resort to the good old-fashioned one coat of white with a little bit of grey just to sort of highlight the creases. It works okay. The figure looks okay, and plenty of his mates with him work really well. The flesh colour, actually I ended up painting, I wasn't convinced, so I ended up painting the hands and face with my normal Vallejo paints. But the rest of it is, other than the white, is all speed paint. So I mean, yeah, it looks okay. I must admit. The skin tone, I must admit, I was a little disappointed in, so I sort of experimented a bits and pieces. And the blue that I actually used for him, the original one, is this guy here, High Lord Blue, which is quite light. I like to give the speed paint technique of giving all the as they say, one coat, giving all the highlights, lowlights, and everything else together. Does work. It does work. It works really well on the the high definition or the high sort of detailed things like the rucksacks and things like that. Doesn't work quite so well on other things. The boots and things like that, I actually used this guy here. Really worked quite well. Quite like the look of the shako, but again, it was slightly too light. But the shako covers came in various colours, so it looks okay. So as I say, I started to experiment with different figures. Came up with this guy next, and again I stuck with the speed paint for the skin tones. Slightly too dark for my liking, but it worked okay. As I say, again stayed with the grey, or the grey that I used. Again, the green was a nice colour as well. All in all, works okay, but still slightly unconvinced. So what I worked on next was techniques of the undercoating. So this guy is black undercoat with a light grey, ash grey as it's called from the Army Painters range, then a white, and the white I basically painted in one direction. They painted downwards, sort of the light catches the top of the figure, and sort of the areas that you are sort of naturally darker. So yeah, it worked okay. I mean, it works. And one thing I did do in the end was so he looks like a bit like a ghost. Painted the hands and the face white because I wanted to use. So I ended up using this one here, which is one of the speed paint, the second range they brought out, which doesn't leach when you repaint over the top of it, and it doesn't, I must admit. I did a bit of experimenting before I tried it, but yeah, it doesn't. Once it's dried, it's dried. It doesn't reactivate, as they were having problems with the original speed paint, which was this one here I was using originally. And yes, you kind of touched it again with any colour and it would just reactivate. So this is the guy I came up with next. This was the peachy skin, as they call it, but with a white undercoat, which, yeah, for me looks a lot better. The the boots and the shakos and things like that were actually this colour here, Beowulf blue, which is a much darker colour and gives it that sort of more sort of French blue. As I say, the shakos and the boot covers and everything else is actually painted with this one, the grim black. Again, goes a much darker effect. Looks a bit more like sort of what they would have had. The red actually is Vallejo red. The knapsacks or backpacks and everything else are all using the either the satchel brown or the original hardened leather. Hardened leather is really good for the backpacks and the muskets and things like that. So yeah, it works really well. So green is orc skin green and things like that. So yeah, it came out really nicely. So I then started experimenting with the other colours for the shako covers and greatcoats and things like that, which, yeah, I mean, it works quite well. It looks quite nice. This is the darker brown. Yeah, I mean, it works, I must admit. As I went on more experimenting, I convinced myself more than anything that it was the way to go, really. As I say, unfortunately, the eyesight isn't as good as it used to be. This, I think, was the last figure I painted, Prussian figure I painted, or the last Napoleonic figure I painted. Yeah, this is my other technique. My original technique was layers of paints with the wash over the top of the whole figure and then repainting and highlighting, and it just took forever. To be honest, my eyesight isn't as good as it used to be, and my hands have developed quite a tremor. So yeah, I can't paint as well as I used to. I can't see as well as I used to. This was actually, I started experimenting with horse flesh and things like this as well. And once again, black undercoat with a light grey and then a white wash, or a white dry brush, I should say, over the top. Always going in one direction with the white. This, yeah, I mean, it looks good. It looks good, I must admit. I like the horses. Just got to do a bit more work on the leather work, painting in some of the metal work on the horse. But other than that, it looks okay, I must admit. I was, quite convinced myself. This is a figure I worked on, and yeah, I mean, the colours are slightly more garish, shall I say, but yeah, I mean, it looks nice. I mean, I'm used to painting my figures so they look kind of worn, dirty, sort of campaign dirt on them. But these kind of, these are on the parade ground, so to speak, painted. So everything is nice and clean and tidy and things like that. Lasted about 5 minutes on campaign. But yeah, I mean, the figures are okay. The horses worked out. This is with the dark satchel, things like that. So the one figure I didn't do very well with was this guy here, where I used a light colour over the top of a sort of a dark wash and the dark undercoat, and that didn't work very well at all. So I imagine I'd have to paint the horse white or a light grey, and then a lot of white dry brushing for that to work. But yeah, it was okay. So as I say, I experimented with different colours. I did a Russian, which the green was slightly too light really for the Russian green, but so I did another figure with I didn't do the white undercoat. I just kept the figure sort of with a grey undercoat, no white highlighting, apart from painting the face whites. Brought the green down much more darker. So this guy's a Prussian officer, Jaeger officer. So yeah, it's working okay. So what I did was I thought, let's really hit it big time. So yeah, I hit it big time. That's 4 units of Prussian line. Yeah, I mean, exactly the same technique. To be honest, when they're in big groups, me with my big bases, they yeah, they look the part, I must admit. I got these guys done really, really quickly. Would have taken me a long time, but yeah, it really done really quickly. So I also got some Jigger skirmishers, got a couple of unfortunate Landvia. I have 4 units of the one I just undercoated, just to give you an example. I've got 4 units of those to paint up, so I'm going to be painting those. All in all, yeah, I must admit I'm somewhat of a speed paint convert, so I'm going to carry on doing my Prussians, get all these guys painted up, which is really, yeah, I've got the Napoleonic bug again, so that's really cool. So yeah, I haven't forgotten the little Hobbit dudes. I am still working on those guys in the background. There's another unit coming in place there, but yeah, it's back to the 28mm Napoleonic for Steve. So just noticed this 11 minutes long, so I'm going to stop talking and stop boring you. So as always, thanks for taking the time to watch the video. Questions or queries, leave them in the comments, and I will get back to you soon. Bye for now.